This is Proxy Countdown. Welcome to the big show for the week of November 3rd, 2025, alongside my tag team partner, Matt Moscardi. I'm Damion Rallis on today's countdown. Some mysterious director no votes, more one-time retention awards for our CEO kings and queens, a dude wants to control Victoria's Secret, the ongoing disappearance of shareholder proposals, and Matt, on the big vote, Matt's Halloween director roundup. Let's get right to the top stories. Let's get to our trade wire. I've been tracking 8Ks since October 8th because, we haven't been doing a show every week because we're not in the height of proxy season. Let's start with some stupid events that occurred. First of all, we're seeing a lot more, and we'll have to track the stats when we get more deeper into the season. We're seeing a lot of CEOs who are becoming chairs of their companies after years of trying to separate those roles. At Textron, not just current CEOs, but former CEOs. Former CEO Scott Donnelly will become executive chair. In fact, the board had to amend the company's bylaws to accommodate the appointment of an executive chair just to allow Scott Donnelly to become executive chair. And this is without a shareholder input. They just went themselves and amended the bylaws. At F5, so F5 is the cybersecurity company that just got hit by a major security breach involving a nation-state threat actor who gained long-term persistent access to some of its systems. So a cybersecurity company couldn't keep its own cybersecurity safe. Its response was to make the CEO, Francois Lecoux-Denou, also the chair. This will happen after the 2026 AGM. And director, Michael Montoya, he's resigning and becoming the company's CTO. So, kind of a weird
that does not seem like a solution,
events, right?
That doesn't seem like the solution.
So they're just pulling from people who are already operating the company and providing oversight to help.
Wouldn't the CEO, wouldn't he be responsible for the massive data breach problem?
Yes.
Making him chair seems...
And the chair is not stepping down because of the breach. The chair is retiring after nearly 30 years as company director and 20 years as the chair. So,
not exactly independent.
At CNA Financial, CEO Douglas Werman will also become chair. And at Texas Instruments, CEO Haviv Alan is becoming chair. These were people who were not, these were companies where those roles were separated. And how about this? A celebrity director resigning at Clover Health Investments. Chelsea Clinton is stepping down.
Wow. Well, I mean, she's available. Maybe we'll put her on our
that'd
board.
Be great. Let's get to some big money awards for executives. At Citigroup, that's the big one. Jane Fraser is getting a one-time retention award. They say it's one time, but who knows? She's getting restricted stocks worth $25 million and over 1 million stock options. You think they would have stopped at 1 million, but she's getting 1,055,000 stock options just for doing her job. And this is now happening throughout the banking industry. They're all getting these one-time awards. People like David Solomon at Goldman Sachs, happened at Wells Fargo. So this is what happens. It's just peer pressure, right? Peer pressure used to be don't let your friends drink and drive. Now it's compensation committees at banking companies handing out massive awards to their CEOs, to people like Jane Fraser, who was never going to leave Citibank. So,
can you tell me if the 1,055,000, if that multiplied by whatever the exercise price is a round number, or are we just chucking in another 55,000? That just seems funny.
MP Materials, there's a one-time grant. This is their language. They always say a one-time grant of restricted stock units to all of the named executive officers worth a total of $28 million. And at Verizon Communications, new CEO Dan Schulman gets a Golden Hello package worth $70 million. Now, Dan Schulman is, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the founders of PayPal?
Yes, but he was the lead independent director of Verizon.
But is this the right way to incentivize a guy who's already extremely wealthy? I mean, this is how we're gonna hold his feet to the fire to perform at Verizon Communications?
And we're giving a golden hello to a guy who's already helloed at Verizon.
Yeah,
he was on the board. Like, what's the hello?
So those are some of the major stories happening in 8Ks. In our proxy cage matches, kind of a creepy proxy cage match, if you ask me. Maybe I'm being really judgmental here. BBRC International, which owns nearly a 13% stake in Victoria's Secret, delivered a letter to the Victoria's Secret board asking for the removal, very specifically, of the chair of the board, Donna James. And that they're pushing Brett Blundy, who runs BBRC, to go on that board. James she's the company chair. She's actually served on the board of L Brands, which is the previous parent company of Victoria's Secret for nearly 2 decades before the 2021 spin out. Brett Blundy wrote in a letter that the reason why they want to get rid of Donna James is she is an over-tenured director with a stale perspective that lacks objectivity regarding the company's operations. Maybe she does have a stale perspective that lacks objectivity regarding the company's operations, although that's hard to quantify other than tenure. But here's the funny thing: I'll just say yes. If we're only going to use tenure as an objective criteria, then yes. Then Brett is right. She's over tenured. I mean, but this is the sad part of director performance metrics, right? All we have currently, 2025, we have OpenAI. We have access to all this incredible ESG data from MSCI, Bloomberg, wherever you want to get your data from, and yet. Still, the only way to articulate performance when you want to oust the director is tenure. That's all we have. That's it.
This may be reverse sexist of me. I don't know how to think about this.
But Victoria's Secret does have, I think, a majority female board. So
it does. But prior to it, it was part of L Brands, which is it does seem. Brett Blundy, his background was he was a founder of a company called BB Retail Capital that invested in Bras and Things, a store called Bras and Things. Another thing called Sanity Entertainment, which was like a weird CDs and Blu-ray company. He's taken out stakes in fast fashion jewelry brands. He
cattle farming,
City Chic Collective, which does women's fashion, and now Victoria's Secret. He seems oddly obsessed with half naked women.
Yeah, and cattle with their udders, right?
I don't. It does seem weird. It seems and then targets women to get them off the board of a women's brand company.
Seems it's a little much.
Weird. Seems weird.
It's a little
I don't know. Seems weird.
Let's move over to our vote results table. Tracking all of the not just the large cap companies, I'm tracking all of the companies that had votes over the past few weeks. There's some strange. I preface at the beginning. There's strange no votes this week. Let me cover them. At San Filippo, John B. and Son, there were
already a handful of a name.
Yeah, there were 3 common directors up for election and 7 Class A directors. The 7 Class A directors, all from the San Filippo and Valentine family, that's 6 men and 1 woman, all received 100% yes votes. That's at Class A. The Class A votes, 10 votes per share, controlled by the San Filippo and Valentine families. They're all happy with each other.
They all agreed. Despite
the fact that, like in any family, there's a lot of fighting. Let's just look, even with your partner, with your kids, with your brother, your sister, there's a lot of fighting going on at family. It's so much that they make movies about it, like Christmas movies about families fighting, Thanksgiving movies.
Can you imagine if the vote had been like, 80% for one of them and 100% for the rest of them.
They can't all be doing well, be honest. But here's the thing. The common directors, 3 women, Pamela Lieberman, Mercedes Romero, and Ellen Taffy. 2 women got 44% no, and Mercedes Romero got 51% no. So,
wow.
Yeah, all the hate directed at the common directors at San Filippo. Despite this weird quote I found in the proxies that says gender and diversity, common stock director nominees are all female. Together with the common stock directors, 40% of our board is female. Except really, it's the common stock directors they're talking about because they're
only right.
So I don't know why they're trumpeting. They're proud of that, but they're basically trying to oust. This is just weird. Like, I don't know why they're trying to oust the common directors at San Filippo. Society Pass Incorporated. A director, Loic Gauthier, a 99% vote against.
Against?
All other directors, 99% yes. The only thing different about Loic I found in the proxy is that he was considered a non-independent director. None of them else had that title. And then the good news is that he actually resigned. He left the board. 3 days later, they said that he left, and they said the resignation was not due to any disagreement with the board or the company, but 99% against would suggest that something weird is going on.
Someone disagreed with something.
99% against, and I couldn't find anything, any information, whether from the press, from filings, that would suggest why this would occur. At Value Line, Stephen Davis, he's the retired deputy commissioner of the New York City Police Department. He's not the oldest director. Stephen Davis, 95% votes against. 95%. We never see numbers like this, despite the fact that he got 99% last year in support. But he is not leaving the board because they have a plurality voting policy, which means that all he needed was 1 vote to get reelected. So he's staying, which is super awkward because 95% of shareholders wanted him gone. It's crazy.
Yeah, when I get to zombies, that is actually the most common zombie feature.
So
plurality
bizarre.
voting.
But you'd think they'd just be like, dude, you got to go. This is ridiculous. At Mawson Infrastructure Group, all 3 directors had 62% votes against. That's another large number.
Exactly, 62% each?
Yeah, and yet they're all coming back because that's another plurality voting standard. Another weird thing that happened, James River Group Holdings, 37% of voters voted no on pay. That's a really high number, despite the fact that only 3% voted no last year. And the pay plan is the same. The CEO is making the same amount of money. NEO's got a cash retention award this year of $2 million total, but they agreed on that decision last year. So I don't really know what's happening there. And the average support for all directors was 99% yes. So I don't really know what's going on at James River Group other than just stupidity. And then finally, the only thing I wanted to point out in the vote results table is I looked at 72 8Ks, 72 meetings since October 8th. I recorded them all on a spreadsheet. I have proof of this if anyone wants to claim that I'm just making stuff up. There are a total of two shareholder proposals at 72 meetings, one at Cintas to call a special meeting, and one at Procter & Gamble for plastic packaging. 2. This is what people are.
This is the chill.
This is what they're angry about. They're angry at ISS. They're angry at BlackRock. They're angry at Glass Lewis. They're angry at everybody because they're claiming that shareholder proposals are destroying capitalism. But there are no shareholder proposals.
But look, the companies that you're highlighting here are not big companies for the most part for a lot of their votes.
Well,
I'm not talking about the shareholder proposals.
Some of them are, yeah.
I'm talking about the other vote results. But there is a pattern emerging, even if these are some weird outlier companies. There is more vote against directors, which is what we predicted going into this year, that if you can't do the shareholder proposal, the only thing left for you to do to show that you're displeased with a board is vote out members, which
Yes.
is something you should have been doing anyway by looking at individual members and whether they perform. But now we might actually be seeing it. The problem is actually that it's indiscriminate votes against and votes for. We're voting against all three common directors at Sanfilippo, John B. and Son, right? Rather than saying who's underperforming, who's not underperforming, which is the next step. You just need the extra data to say, now we can target non-performing directors and forget about shareholder proposals.
And you know what? This isn't new. Whenever there's an activist campaign, they vote against directors. And whenever the share price is getting slaughtered, they vote against directors. So they already exercise this mechanism. They can keep going. And then I just want to point out in the big vote, before I hand it over to you, that next week we have I'm tracking all companies with over $1 billion market cap. Some pretty big meetings coming next week. Vox Corporation, Cisco, Estee Lauder. But again, I'm looking at about 10 companies with over $1 billion market cap next week having votes. Only 4 total shareholder proposals at all of those companies combined. So again, we're just not seeing a lot happening in that area. That's all I got, Matt. I'm going to hand it off to you for the big vote. I know you're covering a lot for our Halloween edition. Go ahead.
Our post-Halloween edition.
Well, come on, it's still Halloween-ish.
So last year, if you listen to the show regularly, which
everybody does,
I created. In this space, everybody knows what a zombie director is, right? Zombie director is a director who gets less than 50% of the votes, but stays on the board anyway, right? Just sticks around. Normally, they call them zombie directors because normally investors have said no, and they're like the undead.
It's usually 2 mechanisms that leave those directors on the board. A plurality voting standard, which we said before, which you only need 1 vote because it's the directors up for vote who get the most votes, and usually they're never contested elections, so that's why they get reelected. And then there are these companies that don't have an automatic resignation policy. They actually, when you don't get a majority votes, they then give that decision to the nomination committee, who gets to decide whether or not to accept the resignation. And more often than not, they're like, like Jay Hogue at Netflix. Correct. They're just like, whatever, who cares?
So everybody knows what zombies are, but I created new categories.
Good.
Because I think that it's easier to understand a director when you can really place them in what do investors actually think about these people? How do they perform? Who are they? So the categories we have are zombies, which we'll go over quickly because we already know what that is. I created something last year called krakens. These are directors with lots of tentacles in the market. They're highly connected directors in our database. I created mummies. I created vampires and Frankensteins. So let's go one by one. You ready?
Let's do it. Ready.
Zombies. These are directors with less than 50% of the votes for, but stayed on the board anyway. Quick update from 2024 zombies. Because you can actually build multi-year zombie boards if you pay attention to this. Investors voted out directors at A.O. Smith and Boston Beer Company in 2024, both of which kept their directors. But since they're classified boards, now investors have different directors to vote against.
Yeah, they're shielded.
In fact, at A.O. Smith, Michael Larson only got 39.6% for in 2025.
Really
so
low.
Now we have extra zombies. We have shielded classified zombies and a new zombie joining the classified zombies. He's still on the board. They rejected his resignation, obviously.
Immortal zombie,
Boston Beer Company's Megan Joyce, 49.7% for. Just barely voted out. Still on the board. Just barely voted out. But yes, it's binary. Still on the board. Also a classified board. Now we've created something new in zombies. Classified zombies. They won't come back for re-election for years. Multiple years.
I'll say it again. I say it all the time. We should have no classified boards, and CEOs should not be chairs.
Look, just for fun, if you given that you know that like A.O. Smith and Boston Beer Company are going to keep their directors anyway, vote all of the directors out every year and have an entire board of zombies. Why not? That'd be fun.
That'd be nice. I like that.
In 2025, there were 22 zombies in the U.S., 26 when you count Puerto Rico, because there were actually 4 at one company in Puerto Rico. To your point, almost all are either classified boards or plurality voting, or some have like some other strange control mechanism. But those are the two major mechanisms: classified board and plurality voting, which insulates directors. Usually investors are voting against directors because they don't like classified boards or plurality voting. That's usually the reasoning, right?
Right.
The exception here being the one that you mentioned, Jay Hogue.
Jay Hogue, yes.
21.5% for, 6% influence on the board. Second time he's been voted out in a decade.
He's the quote-unquote lead independent director at Netflix, right? Despite
lead independent director.
For several decades.
And here's the quote: board rejected Mr. Hogue's resignation because they determined that it's, quote, in the best interests of the company and its stockholders.
Right. The same stockholders that voted him out.
The stockholders voted him out. The company's board, Netflix's board, decided it's in the best interest of those stockholders to keep him on. They determined this because Jay Hogue did not, they assume, they don't know, but they basically said, we believe that Mr. Hogue did not receive a majority of votes cast because he attended less than 75% of the meetings. And then went about saying he goes to all the other meetings. He's been at every other meeting over the past years. He has an exemplary attendance record. We reject his resignation. So Jay Hogue's your big one. Your second big one, there's actually 2 on the TripAdvisor board this year. Greg Maffei.
Wow.
30.7% for, 9% influence. And Jeremy Phillips, 43.2% for, 5% influence.
Big name, former CEO of SiriusXM, TripAdvisor, Liberty Media. He's a big deal.
He's been everywhere.
Yeah.
But through the magic of plurality voting, all you needed was one vote and you get to stay in. So Maffei and Phillips, they get to stay there.
Zombies.
But fun fact, the reason why I pulled this one, I thought it was fun, was in 2024, TripAdvisor also had Jay Hogue on their board.
Well, there you go.
That's not a joke.
That's a fun
the zombies
fact.
all know each other. That's how zombies
fact.
work, right? Like they cluster up and become hordes of zombies. Sure. Next up, krakens.
Yeah. What's a kraken?
Okay, a kraken is a current director with the most discrete connections in our database to other current directors.
So krakens have a lot of friends.
A lot of tentacles out there in the universe. Think of it as tentacles. How many tentacles does each director have? The biggest tentacles are krakens, okay?
Got it.
This is for U.S. directors only. And this year last year we didn't have this data, but this year we included nonprofit connections. So now a kraken can have even more tentacles. In reverse order, here are your top krakens. Alex Gorski. Mm-hmm. Alex Gorski, you might recognize as the former CEO of Johnson & Johnson, right?
Okay.
He's on the boards of Apple, IBM, and JP Morgan. He has 22 discrete connections in our database, active connections to other board members. Mm-hmm. Mark Weinberger on the boards of Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, and MetLife. Gorski and Weinberger are connected to each other. Nice. This is how krakens work. They just, a lot of love between them. 25 discrete connections with other board members in our database. And finally, the kraken of all krakens in 2025, Patricia Russo, Pat Russo, actively connected to 29 other current directors, first or second degree connections, through her board roles right now at GM, Merck, HP, and KKR. 4 boards, 29 other discrete directors who are active in our database. In fact, I looked at Kraken duos. These are people who are connected to each other with the most tentacles. And Pat Russo along with Wes Bush. Both are on the GM board. They have 49 connections together.
Wow.
They're connected to each other through 5 different ways: Just Capital, Business Roundtable, Northrop Grumman, Greater Washington Partnership, Merck, KKR. Mark Weinberger, another Kraken, sits between them in 2 of their paths. These are people who are tentacles are so intertwined that effectively there is no independence. There can't be independence between them. They have 49 connections between them in common.
I think what you're saying is that if you're a bit of an introvert and you go to a party with them, don't go to a party with these people because they're going to ditch you immediately.
Oh, you are such an outsider.
You're going to be alone.
In fact, if you are an outsider on the board of IBM, IBM's board has 125 total tentacles between their members.
That makes sense. IBM.
They are all connected. And I do want to
companies.
bring up one other company
Yeah.
that has a lot of problems and an interconnected board. That's Target.
Ooh.
92 tentacles on that board. 92 tentacles. These are people who are supposed to be independently reviewing the company's strategy, and they all have friends in common. These are highly interconnected people. Those are Krakens.
Yes.
You seem not super enthusiastic about this. This is like
I'm
the
loving
greatest
it. I'm
data.
taking it in. I'm trying not to blow hard and ruin your data.
All right, next up is mummies.
Yeah, I'm just listening to this wonderful data. Go ahead.
Mummies. These are directors. These aren't family members or founders. They're not insiders. They're not CEOs. They're not controlling shareholders. These are non-executive directors with tenure greater than 20 years, but less than 10% influence on the board.
Okay.
So these are basically people who you wrap them up in gauze and you put them in the corner. They have no real influence over the board decisions. They don't have very much power, but for some reason, they've still been there for 20 or more years.
Got it.
There are 255 of them in the U.S. Active on boards. 255 mummies. 35 of them, more than 10%, are lead independent directors.
Is that right?
35. Just take that in. These are directors with less than 10% influence. They don't have like a founder on the board, where you'd assume like, okay, a founder's there. That's why they have so little influence. They've been there somehow for 20 years. They don't have any influence and they're lead independent directors.
Huh. Well, I don't understand that. Who like give me some examples.
So here's an example.
Yeah.
Well, usually in those cases, the CEO, there is an executive chair on the board and a CEO on the board.
So they're
the lead
sucking up all the
independent director
influence. Yeah.
basically has no real influence on the board.
Yeah.
But here are my top 5 favorite mummies in 2025. And these are people that are literally covered in desiccant year after year, and they get 4 votes every single year for some reason. Steve Odland, General Mills board, 2% influence.
Jeez.
Steve Odland is the CEO of the conference board.
Mm-hmm.
They put out pieces. The conference board, who we know a little bit of the conference board
of course,
through our connections at S-Gage, a wonderful company, gave us a bunch of data. Used to be a sponsor of our shows. They put out a piece just recently called Pressures of Directors on Succession Planning. And another piece they co-authored with PwC about how nearly all senior, this is a quote, nearly all senior executives are calling for board refreshment.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Steve Odland on the board of General Mills has been there for 21 years.
That's weird.
He has been on the board of General Mills since the year the iPod Mini was launched.
Yeah, but it sounds like no one's really listening to him anyway, so maybe it doesn't really matter that he's there.
I mean, that seems like a call for board refreshment. You've been there.
It's time.
You joined the board.
It's awkward.
Bought an iPod Mini and we're loving the shuffle feature.
A director who comes from somewhere that celebrates corporate governance, you shouldn't be there for longer than 10 years, I would think.
You would think. How about Simon Lorne at Teledyne?
Okay.
3.8% influence. He's 79 years old.
Yeah.
He joined the board the same year Victor Wembanyama was born 21 years ago.
Okay. French basketball giant.
And he is actually ex-Munger and Munger, the law firm, Munger
good.
Tolles.
Good.
Or Tolles.
Yeah.
Bill Grabe at Gartner, 8% influence. He's 86 years old.
Wow.
He joined the board when Kurt Cobain married Courtney Love 32 years ago.
I guess I wasn't really aware they were married. It seems like very un-Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love to get married.
They were. I think Bill Grabe was at the wedding.
Yeah.
Because he joined the board of Gartner then.
Yeah, he was dating Dave Grohl at the time from currently the
He
Foo
chairs the
Fighters.
Nominating Committee now, which explains something because the average age of directors the average tenure of directors at Gartner is 13 years. 5 out of the 11 directors have been there 15 or more years.
Wow.
In fact, when Steve Pagliuca joined the board 15 years ago, Grabe was 71 years old and on the board at the time.
Have fun being a new director at Gartner. That's going to be comfortable.
Gartner, which is an expert network, a publicly traded expert network who's talking now currently about using their AI expertise.
Oh, no. Really? From a bunch of octogenarians?
From a bunch of octogenarians? What was going on at Gartner?
Well, good. Maybe
can we refresh that board?
Maybe they can be cynical about it and just stop it.
Maybe we could refresh that board.
How about human expertise? Human expertise. Yeah, go ahead.
My favorite mummy is Bill Miller of Cummins.
Okay.
9.9% influence, 68 years old. He's been on the board since the same year Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was released.
Oh, wow.
36 years ago.
Now I feel old.
He was 32 at the time he joined the board.
Yeah, I feel old.
So definitely saw that movie.
Yeah.
Chairs the comp committee. He's the president of the Wallace Foundation since 2011. Previously on the board of mutual funds. Why are you on the board for 36 years?
Yeah, that's a mummy.
I don't understand.
Right? That
Cummins
sounds like a mummy.
Cummins makes like industrial machinery. Why? What did you add to them for 36 years that it's important that you stay? He's my favorite mummy this year.
That's good. He comes from Cummins. Cummins mummy.
Next up, vampires.
Yes.
We'll go through these quickly.
Favorite. I love vampires.
Directors that perform under their batting average for earnings and TSR is less than 250. Both 250. These are bottom quartile.
These are poor performing directors.
And they have greater than 10 years of tenure. And they're over 75 years old. These are ancient bloodsuckers.
If you're listening, Egan Jones, you better vote all these people out. You have no excuse.
These are easy. These are layup vote outs. They are 10-year tenure, 75 or older, and they're bottom performers over the last 7 years. Easy. In fact, these are so obvious that we lost some vampires from last year to retirement or mergers. These are people that are so old they're retiring. You could just vote them out. You don't have to wait for them to retire.
Yeah, but I thought vampires didn't die. That's weird.
We actually have 6 this year with only 1 repeat.
Okay.
Here's the top 3. Colm Barrington, 79-year-old director at Willis Lease and Fly Leasing.
Oh, 2 leases. Yeah. That's
2 leasing companies.
Weird.
Both underperforming.
Yeah.
And a near 80-year-old director who's been on the board for 10 years or more at both of them. How about Wolfgang Porsche?
Well, let me guess where he works.
Yeah, exactly. At Porsche and at VW.
Right. Well, Porsche owns VW. I mean, it's the same ownership group, right?
It's the same ownership.
Yeah.
He has 20% influence. He's 82 years old and bats in the bottom quartile for both. The company's named after him. It doesn't mean you have to vote for him.
Yeah, he's just family. Wait, he's the founder? He's not the founder. He's a Nepo baby?
I believe he's a Nepo baby.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then finally, the repeat, Po Chu Yu.
Yes.
The 99-year-old woman who's a dictator at Lai Sun Development in Hong Kong. Her son is also on the board.
Wow.
I actually can't be mad at a 99-year-old woman. Even if she provides no shareholder value, 99-year-old woman, feel free to suck the blood out of your own company. I'm fine.
Yeah,
with
I mean, we should analyze her diet too, because she
It's
has
pretty
the
impressive.
mental acuity to keep going is amazing. But she's a vampire, so whatever. She's immortal.
I mean, yeah, she is. She'll live forever. And finally, let's end my bit.
I love
There's a
this
lot.
bit. Yeah. A lot of information.
Frankensteins.
A lot of information. Yeah, Frankenstein.
Honestly, this is all easy to get. This is all data you can cross-cut yourself. There's databases of it. You can figure out your own kind of versions of these.
What's a Frankenstein?
These are Frankensteins.
What are
these
they?
are directors less than 50% votes for in 2023, stayed on the board as a zombie, and got greater than 50% votes for.
So despite the fact that they disregarded the shareholder vote, shareholders changed their minds and said, "Oh, we love you again anyway."
Exactly. They and I got the year is 20, like they were a zombie for 2024. They actually back up for election in 2025. They got greater than 50% votes for in 2025.
It's like a rebound with your boyfriend or girlfriend.
It's like you've been
or getting married a second time
like
to the same person.
Reprocessed director.
Yeah,
I just thought the hot dogs.
Or like a
directors.
regurgitated food, like a baby bird. All right, go ahead. What do you got?
You're a director hot dog. TG Therapeutics had 3 directors fail.
Wow.
In Daniel Hume, Cigar Lonial, and Jan Eschelard.
Yes.
All of whom were voted in 2025.
So what changed?
Well, the votes in were 58.9% for, 54.1% for, and 58.6% for.
I can tell you worked at MSCI because you love that decimal point, that tenth.
Well, almost nothing changed is my point.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. That's true.
It's really, really like they almost got voted out again.
Yeah.
They ignored it, but they're back. Now they can say we're back, okay? We can just say it. Enough people voted for it. But my favorite for this year, Viva Systems Paul Secri. In 2024, Paul Secri got 48.8% for. He was voted out.
Yes.
Here is what Viva, in their 8K, they didn't wait like a month to do a considered, thoughtful process. In the 8K announcing the results of the vote, this is what they wrote. Quote, Mr. Secri tendered his conditional resignation as a director for consideration by the nominating committee of the board. Mm-hmm. For the ultimate decision of the board. The disinterested members of the committee recommended, after due consideration, 3 days later,
minutes,
they put out the 8K, 3 days. After due consideration, that the board should not accept Mr. Secri's tendered resignation.
Well, there you go.
No other explanation why.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
they just said,
we don't want to.
No. They just said, and they said due consideration after 3 days.
Yeah.
In 2025, Paul Secri, 94% votes for. Everyone loves the guy.
Wow. That's weird.
94. There was no attendance thing I could find. There was no obvious thing I could find. I have no idea what the reasons.
Maybe he lost some weight, worked out, got a hair transplant. Maybe he's just sexier now.
He's the ultimate hot dog director. He's
Yeah,
the Frankenstein director. That's all I got. That's all I got.
That's amazing. I love this. I love the Halloween special. I love the Frankensteins, the vampires, the mummies, the zombies, the krakens. My favorite, I think, is the vampires.
Really? You can't vote. You can't.
I just like
99
shining a light on underperforming directors. I just think it needs to happen, especially.
I just love a 99-year-old woman who's still running a company.
Anything else? Because that seems like a lot.
That's a lot. I'm done.
That's the Proxy Countdown for the week of November 3rd, 2025. Join us in a couple of weeks. We don't know when we jump back into the alternative democracy pool. Forever on the lookout for shareholder shenanigans, dopey directors, scandalous CEO pay ratios, wayward bandits, krakens, zombies, everything. Frankensteins, all of it.
Oh, they're all coming back.
Yeah.